What's up, everybody? This is GreyMan here. I hope everybody out there in YouTube land is doing well. I want to say thank you all for joining me on this quick video. Today we're going to dive into 5 common emergency fuels to stock up on. And the reason I'm bringing this up is, we stock food and medical supplies and all kinds of stuff like that. But I feel another key important thing to being prepared is having fuels to either cook on, for your generators, to heat yourself, and so on and so forth, if you kind of get where I'm going with this. So we're going to talk about 5 different fuels that are pretty common, and at the end I'll kind of go over a couple other ones that you guys can look into as well. But I figured these are the easiest to find and probably easiest to stock up on, as well as a few tips in regards to storing and stuff like that. Because here's how I look at it. It can be difficult to plan for a disaster, not knowing when it's going to happen, how long it's going to last, and what you're going to need. So it's trying to get yourself comfortable with all different facets of prepping. So this is kind of in addition to stocking your essentials. Like I said, with like food and water, and medical supplies, and let me see, and several other things like that. But it's extremely important if you can and have the option and the space to stockpile certain types of fuels as well. And so we're going to go through a few of these, and of course I got my handy dandy notes. Someone asked me one time, like, "Hey Gray, why do you always look at your notes?" And I said, because I want to stay on task and I don't want to misinform the public. And sometimes I still make mistakes, because I'm only human and whatnot. But before we jump into this, if you can, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. I would truly appreciate that. If you don't like the content by the end of this video, I guess you could always switch that around, but hopefully I'm going to give you something of value and at least stir up some ideas for yourself and your family in regards to being prepared with fuel. And first of all, I wanted to start with, and I have this highlighted on my notes, just to kind of go over, is this, you want to place these fuels in the right containers. You want to store a lot of them away from your house. You want to add fuel stabilizers and additives when necessary, and rotate, rotate, rotate. You want to rotate some of these fuels, in and out of your, just like how you do with your prepper pantry and your foods. You want to just rotate this stuff in and out. You know what I mean? Date the stuff if you can. Date the fuel cans. If you have a little, thing on there, stickers, however you want to set it up, would be the best option that works best for you and your family. All right. So for the first one, we're going to start off with is kerosene. You should store kerosene in roughly a 5-gallon container, and they do make 5-gallon blue containers for kerosene. You can buy kerosenes in containers that they come, kind of already, in their, whatever you want to call it. When you go out to buy kerosene, it comes in specific containers. But you can buy 5-gallon blue containers that are specifically designed for kerosene. Just kind of do your research. You can probably find them on Amazon and other places from where I've seen. It's importantly to use specific colors for specific fuels so you can differentiate them from other fuels. Let's say, if you have gasoline, and which we're going to go into, you can use that in a red container. Diesel, which can be used in a yellow container. It'll help you look and see and be able to grab the proper fuel that you need right away, knowing these colors by hand, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Because instead of trying to read labels and stuff like that, you're like, okay, yellow means diesel, red means gasoline, blue means kerosene. So just a kind of few tips there on in regards to that, because you don't want to accidentally mix up kerosene for gasoline and have a bad situation on hand. On hand. Yeah, there we go. So, here I got some notes in regards to the shelf life of kerosene, so hopefully this will help you folks as well. Kerosene has a shelf life up to 5 years when stored in its original container, and that you bought it in, or if you put it in a approved storage container like the blue one that I'm talking about. Also, as kerosene ages, condensation can occur. This can create bacteria and molds, which can ruin the quality of the fuel, making it unusable. To prevent this, you should add fuel stabilizers. And you want to do this roughly annually. You know what I mean? Let's say once a year or whatnot when it comes to kerosene. All right, so moving on to one of the most common that everybody should know is gasoline. Gasoline and diesel were kind of rope into the same realm of things because they're very similar in nature. Not to say that someone's going to say, hey, well, they're really different. I understand what you're trying to say, but gasoline and diesel, I'm going to kind of rope into the same thing. So like I said, gasoline, you can store them in the red 5-gallon, containers and whatnot. But, the the true, to me, a good, I mean, if you can only get the 5 gallons, that's fine. Some people are going to say 55-gallon drums. But, you know, you want at least 25 gallons on average on hand to kind of help you with, you know, to get you through an emergency situation. And this is a short-term emergency situation. Now, I mean, it's something extremely long-term. But on the average curve for the hurricane season, I usually tell folks, you know, about 25 gallons, you know, depending on the generator and how efficiently it uses the fuel. And like I said, diesel, you can separate diesel and gasoline, putting diesel in yellow cans and, you know, gasoline in the red cans. It'll help you not make any, you know, horrible mistakes. Let me see here. You see, and from the best way that I can think of is you want to store gasoline in a cool, dark, dry place. And this comes with a lot of stuff. You'll hear this redundancy when it comes to storing stuff in general. You should also store gasoline or diesel in a well-ventilated, get it right, Gray, a well-ventilated area. Man, for some reason that wouldn't come off the tongue, right, guys? You know, such as, let's say you have a garage or a shed. You want to keep, like I said, keep the containers out of direct sunlight. Because I don't know if you've ever tried to, you know, some people I've seen, they try to put gasoline, let's say, in a closet somewhere and stuff like that, and their house starts to smell like gasoline. Just like when you transport gasoline in your vehicle, and all you do is smell gas, and so on and so forth. But anyways, roughly, like I say, for me personally, for certain situations, like let's say, you know, for hurricane season, I always make sure that I have at least 25 gallons minimum on hand. And that's specifically for the generator. That's not saying, you know, for the cars and whatnot. And of course, you can use fuel stabilizers in that as well to extend the shelf life of gasoline, which most gasolines are roughly about 6 months. And once you put the stabilizer in there, you can get a year beyond that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else with gasoline. And, you know, when you're cycling the stuff out, let's say you buy the 25 gallons for, let's say, your Jenny or whatnot. And as it gets closer to that date, as long as you've done it properly, you can rotate that and use it for, let's say, your lawnmower or, you know, your car, your vehicle, or whatever else that may take gas on your property or that you happen to use. All right, so moving on to number 3. Number 3 is going to be propane. Now, I'm a big proponent and fan of propane. And one of the reasons is because it has near an indefinite shelf life if stored properly. But, you know, you can store propane in 1 pound, 5 pound, 20 pound, 30 pound tanks. You know, a fixed tank, you know, can provide a lot more propane storage than some of the other smaller ones, just like the little green Colemans that you get, or the 5-gallon ones that you can exchange, you know, at your normal big box stores and whatnot. But yeah, so, and one key thing about propane is you, depending on where you live, I guess, you know what I mean, because, I mean, we've seen the heat out there this year and, you know, rise up pretty high, but, you know, usually you want to keep your propane, you never want to expose your propane to but anything over 120 degrees, then you're going to be coming into an issue. But like I said, it nearly has almost an indefinite shelf life if you store it properly. It doesn't degrade due to any natural, you know, occurring processes and stuff like that. Usually it's only limited to its container. You know, and usually there's an expiration date on a lot of containers, which is usually here. I have it highlighted here. Usually most propane containers will normally be about 30 years on the shelf life on those propane containers. And it's based on the, you know, inspection date of the container and stuff like that. But propane can be used for a lot of things as well, you know, for, you know, camp stoves, for just general lighting, you know, for lanterns, for, you know, cooking and so on and so forth. There's just a lot of uses that you can use propane for, and I like the aspect of it, if stored properly, how you can use it, and, you know, you can have it definitely on hand. If you have, you know, the storage, because one thing with I want to say with propane, you know, a lot of people have the little green propane tanks, and, you know, they'll try to store them a lot in their house and stuff like that. Sometimes with stuff like this, you kind of want to store, if you have, like, say, a barn or something like that, or somewhere, sometimes you want to store some of these fuels away from your home, because if something goes sideways, it could be a nasty situation, you know, far be it from an explosion or just a fire in general or something to that extent, because let's say if you have 100 propane canisters all together and one goes south, just imagine the situation that can arise out of that. So, like I said, when it comes to storing these fuels, please do your research. And think of where you're storing these fuels at, you know, and what could it affect if something was to go sideways. Just like a little, you know, side note there, you know what I mean? just because you want to be safe in regards to what you're storing. This is not like food, you know what I mean, where you can store 100, 200, 300, however many pounds of food you want inside your prepper pantry. But when it comes to certain fuels, you want to keep stored in specific areas. So you want to protect your family and as well as others around your neighborhood possibly. If you're living on a homestead, then you just kind of want to protect it's something important. Let's say you have something like livestock and stuff like that. I think enough said, right enough. Get off the propane, get off the propane kit, Gray. All right, so number 4, which is another common one, and if you have access to it, some people, like here in Florida, you won't see it as much, but funny enough, people will ask me, like, because I stock firewood, you know what I mean, because I do have a fire pit. I do have a wood burning stove as a backup and emergency plan. So firewood is going to be my number 4. Firewood is a fuel as old as basically civilization itself, to be honest with you. It has many uses such as cooking and heating and providing light and so on and so forth. And there's just so many good uses with firewood. Now what comes with firewood, it needs to be seasoned. Most of the firewood that you buy, let's say at a Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever kind of place like that, if you're not doing it yourself, will be seasoned already. But you want the wood to be seasoned, which basically is dried. It can be burnt efficiently that way. Seasoning your firewood is simply storing it correctly. You know what I mean? Firewood should kind of be stacked neatly. And you want to kind of cover it with some sort of. I use a tarp. One of the dark, I have a gray tarp over one bundle, and then I also have a blue tarp on the other one. And it protects from rain and moisture and stuff like that. Also, you want to keep the sides of the firewood exposed to fresh air so that it can dry properly. If you notice, when a lot of people have their firewood, and you'll see the top is just covered and the sides are exposed, and that's just to make sure that it dries properly and excretes moisture. Now, even seasoned firewood can go bad after about 5 years, depending on the type of firewood that it is. After the firewood starts to decay, you can still burn it and whatnot, but you're going to run into situations, if it'll lighting it and the efficiency of the wood itself will diminish quickly, if that helps. And I know some people are going to say, well, fat wood and stuff like that, but we're just talking about generalized fat wood. Like I said, we're talking about common fuels. And some people say, well, fat wood is common. And yes, you can. You can find, boxes and boxes of fat wood on Amazon as well. I love fat wood personally. I like to make it. I like to use it. I even have fat wood inside of my get-home bags. But I'm just saying generalized when it comes to firewood, something that's, really quick and easy for most folks to store. And a lot of you folks up north probably have, a lot of firewood stored as well. I know when I lived in Michigan, along the side of the garage, we had mounds and mounds of firewood. I think if you've seen Ed over at Prepper Nurse 1, I think he has a whole building filled, not a building, but you know what I mean, his alcove of one of his areas filled with nothing but firewood. So, all right. So that being said, I think we're on number 5 here, and number 5 is going to be another common one. And there's going to be some tips and tricks to this as well. Number 5 is charcoal. Now, when I say charcoal, a lot of people think their first thing you're going to think is like, let's say, I think, what is it, like Kingston and Everlight. There's a bunch of firewood or charcoals out there. And when you look into charcoal, sometimes dig a little deeper beyond the charcoal that you're buying, the briquettes and whatnot, because some of them have some chemicals in them, like the quick lights and stuff like that, which can change it over time. But things evaporate and stuff like that. Anyways, charcoal is a fuel that was basically once wood, and it has burned very slowly over time, and then, with very little oxygen. And you guys, I'm just kind of giving you a little bit of scientific, if you want to call it scientific tidbits here. But basically then it turns into carbon, which thus is charcoal. But anyways, charcoal is very cheap emergency fuel. It can be used for heating. It can be used for cooking as well. And like I said, it comes in briquettes, lumps, and like I said, it's just really readily easy, accessible, and purchasable in most places. So the key thing is storing charcoal. And what I would suggest, if you're going to store charcoal, is don't keep it in the bags that it comes into, because moisture will get to it, rain, whatever, you know what I mean? Some people say, well, I've had a bag for this long. I'm telling you, the safest way to store charcoal, or not the safest, but to get the most life out of charcoal, is to store, I say 5-gallon buckets if you can, or if you have some sort of, if you have access to a 55-gallon drum and you can store it in there as well. Anything that's basically airtight, that you can keep moisture out. Let me see here. And like I said, the paper bags is just not ideal for long-term storage, because like I said, it doesn't protect them from moisture. Basically, there's moisture in the air and the humidity and whatnot, and which it will soak up. Believe it or not, it will soak up. I don't know if you guys have ever ran into that situation, but it will. So like I said, empty those bags. If you buy 10 bags and you want to empty those into an airtight container, it would be your best option. And like I said, the shelf life of charcoal depends on how you store it. If stored in the original paper bags, you're probably going to get about, on the average, 2 years out of it. You know what I mean? But if you invested in some nice airtight containers, you're probably going to ensure that its longevity beyond your wildest dreams. Because without it being moisture, to me personally, some of the charcoal that I've used when we we'll just mess around and we'll open up one of these bins and grab a few and just to see how it's doing, every few years. To check on it, and I've had charcoal that's over 8 years old that still has no issues whatsoever. Let me see here, but like I said, if you can store it in an airtight container, the charcoal should basically last indefinitely, kind of like how propane. So propane and charcoal, those are kind of if stored properly, those are two types of fuels that can pretty much last indefinitely. Will probably outlast most of us per se. Anyway, so I got a note here saying if you got old charcoal that hasn't been stored correctly, then you can renew it by spreading it out in some concrete on a warm day in the sun. It'll help dry it out, and then it can be used effectively, and it'll be a lot more efficient. So if you do have some charcoal or happen to run across some that has moisture in there, and just find a wide open space. If you have a driveway or something like that, or something, you have a patio in the back that has direct sunlight, lay that charcoal out there and let that moisture evaporate from that, and you can kind of bring that charcoal back and then use it as well. So that is my 5 top common fuel sources, basically emergency fuels that you should stock up on. This is and what I'm hoping to get out of this is to, like I said, always to spur the conversation down in the comments below. Let me know down below what kind of fuels do you stock up on, for emergency situations, and why, and that you choose these fuels and what you use them for. I always like to read the comments and interact as best as I can, because we all learn from each other. Not only me from here, sitting here, going over some topics that I like to discuss, but also you, the subscribers, and some of the experiences and things that you guys use as well, and it kind of spurs that conversation and interacting with each other. I've gotten a lot of great information from you guys out there as the subs. So, excuse me. That being said, please drop down a comment and give me some information. You know what I mean? Especially one, let's say the one that's very important to you that I may have missed. And like I said, these are more the common types. I'm not talking about, let's say, wood pellets, alcohol, gel fuels, biomass briquettes, butane, and one that I use a lot is hexamine. Hexamine is, you've seen with my Dragon stove. I should go over there and grab a thing, but I don't want to stop the camera recording. I'm already running behind as usual. But hexamine are the little solid fuel tabs that you'll see in the Dragon stove. They're very small. They come in that. I buy cases of this stuff. And it pretty much can last pretty much indefinite as well. And I keep a lot of that for my Dragon stoves, because I use the Dragon stoves in my get home bags and stuff like that. And if you haven't seen my review on the Dragon stove, which is a long time ago, it feels like a long time ago, but I'll leave it, where's it at? How do I do this here? Yeah, here we go, right up here. I'll leave a link to that review on the Dragon stove. And I think I might have an Amazon link down below that video as well. If you guys are interested in purchasing the Dragon stove, they're relatively cheap, and the fuel tabs, they're lightweight, and it's just, I really enjoyed using that product. Other than that, so I think that about wraps it up. So don't forget, I will be doing, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow is Tuesday. So Tuesday I'll be dropping here a little bit in the community section For members, you members only, I will be doing a live stream around noontime. It's just going to kind of be we'll be talking about a few things and moving forward with our membership tab. And also tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you should see the thumbnail come up here soon. Man, I can't speak today. But I'll have Matt from Magic Prepper tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Grey Exchange. Looking forward to interviewing Matt. Should be a good time. Please join me at that time, and we'll see you then. This is GreyMan, and I am out. I'll see you guys in a rebound. God bless, and have a great day. Thank you.